Well, kia ora. I'm back. I've been on sabbatical since November. I've had this incredible privilege of visiting North India and Vietnam, Cambodia, Singapore. It's such a gift, but so good to be back with you, my church family. But we're in this series, Real Theology, our summer series, where we discuss these recent movies and ask, well, what does the gospel have to say about that? Different to the way we normally do things, but as Brad explained the past couple of Sundays, we're a church that seeks to engage biblically with the worldviews of our culture. They're often reflected in movies. So each January, we like to take different movies from different genres, critique them. We think it's not just good for our own formation, but actually equips us to have meaningful conversations with our friends, our whānau, colleagues who are wrestling with all the same questions these movies are asking. So today, our movie is Wicked. Now, I know some of you just perked up, finally a musical. Others of you are thinking, a musical about a witch in church? Stay with me, because certainly, during the travels, during the sabbatical, especially in Singapore, promotional materials about this movie were like everywhere. As you can see in the family pics here, we grabbed a few of them. So I kept asking myself, and I thought, why is this movie so big? I don't think it's just the music. I don't think it's just the spectacle. It's the message, because Wicked asks questions we're all wrestling with. Like, who gets to decide who's good and who's evil? What if the story we've been told is wrong? What are the villains actually the hero and the hero's the villain? And see, these aren't just like movie questions, they're the questions we're all asking. Because we live in a world now where every narrative gets deconstructed. Every authority is questioned, everyone claims to have, their truth. No one knows what's actually real, what's true anymore. On top of that, we're exhausted by this polarization, this us versus them, these fragments in society where we're trying to take complex people and flatten them into either good or bad. And Wicked, the story about this misunderstood green-skinned woman and this fraudulent wizard, somehow captures exactly what we're asking and discussing in 2026. So here's what I want to see today. Wicked flips the story, but Jesus, he's able to rewrite it. And these are two very different things. So today we're going to do a couple of things. First, we're going to honor what Wicked gets right in our world, but then we're going to go deeper in the gospel to see, well, how Jesus does this even more. Because Jesus doesn't just like flip good and evil around. He's able to transform them. He doesn't like question authority. He is the authority, a truth embodied. So let me show you all of this in like three movements. Here's the first one. Movement number one. We see surfaces, not souls. So early in the movie, we face the first day of university when Glinda first meets Elphaba, and it's a perfect illustration about how stereotyping works. You see, Elphaba walks through the halls of the university. She's carrying some luggage, and students stop and stare and whisper, and she passes through, and she's like green-skinned. She's like clearly different and dangerous and other. She arrives at her dorm room to discover she's been assigned a roommate, Glinda. It's the popular girl, the perfect girl, everything Elphaba's not. And when Madame Mirabelle announces they're going to be living together, Glinda's face says it all. Instant horror, instant disgust. She doesn't even try to hide it. It's a musical, so of course they break into a song. What is this feeling? And they describe the feeling as unadulterated loathing. That's their reaction. That instant recoil, that's the movie in miniature. Green skin, different, other equals dangerous. Glinda takes just one look and she knows. She doesn't need to hear Elphaba's story or learn her name. The verdict's instant. This person doesn't belong in my world. And of course, here's the uncomfortable truth. They could be us. If we see somebody in like half a second, we've made a judgment. Their clothes tell us their income bracket, their accent tells us their country of origin, perhaps even their education level, their skin tone, their age, their body shape. We just think we know the whole story of someone. We're experts at reading covers. We're terrible at reading souls. And this isn't new. 2,000 years ago, the most religious people in the world looked at Jesus and they saw exactly what Glinda saw in Elphaba. Dangerous, different, wicked. Now, these religious leaders in the Bible, they're called the Pharisees. They were experts in the Jewish scriptures, dedicated their entire lives to studying and following God's law. If anyone should have recognized who Jesus is, the promised Messiah, well, surely it was them. But here's what the Pharisees saw when they looked at Jesus. Here's the wrong friends. I mean, tax collectors, collaborators with the Roman forces. He's friends with like prostitutes and sinners. You know, the people who have like green skin, you know, respectable folks should walk the opposite side of the road. But they're friends of Jesus. He had wrong theology. According to them, you know, could claim to forgive sin, something only God could do. And the wrong attitude. He's healing people on the Sabbath, the Jewish day of rest. No one's meant to work, but Jesus is. He's touching lepers. People considered ritually unclean in society. He let women sit at his feet as he taught them, you know, to become his disciples, unheard of in their culture. He broke like every rule that the religious system was all like built on, and their verdict from all of that. Well, Jesus is possessed by demons. He's leading people astray. He must be stopped. They looked at the Son of God, the only true good person who's ever lived, and they decided he needed to die. The most trained spiritual eyes in the world, the people who knew Scripture backwards and forwards, you know, more than you and I can quote, if they got it completely wrong, catastrophically wrong, it obviously means that, well, you and I can get it wrong too. And we do, a lot of the time. And this is why Jesus said in John chapter 7, stop judging by mere appearances and judge correctly. So let me tell you about the experience of Alan Parker from our Green Lane location. 5 years ago during COVID, his wife Kay volunteered Alan to help cook some meals for people sleeping rough. You'll love it when our spouses do that. Alan thought it'd be like this one-off thing, you know, drop off some food, get home, feel good about helping. But he said something happened within. When I was chatting to Alan about this a while back, he said, you know, like it's easy to do like a middle-class charity. You know, you keep somebody like at arm's length, you don't exchange names, you maintain the categories, the helper and the helped, the housed and the homeless, the us and them, and something changed within him. And it changed when Alan started learning people's names and hearing their stories and why they were on the street in the first place. And no longer was it like some like category of, you know, homeless. It was like John, it was Sarah, it was people with histories and heartbreaks and hopes. Now Alan's out there praying with people on the street, sharing the good news of Jesus with them, opening his home to them. About one night, a new Māori friend sat at Alan's table and he said something that still undoes him. He said, I'd never thought I'd be in a house like this with an old white couple having some real yum food. See, Alan realized he was seeing services, he wasn't seeing souls. Glinda saw green skin, knew everything she needed to know. Pharisee saw Jesus, knew everything they needed to know. Alan initially saw homeless people, knew everything he needed to know, until he realized he didn't actually know them. And here's a question Wicked raises, the question that should actually unsettle us. If the most religious people in history could look at Jesus and see evil, and if we can look at each other and get it wrong every single day, how do we actually know who's good and who's wicked? How do we know we're not the ones getting it wrong? Leads us to the second movement, that we need truth, not just PR. We need like actual truth, not just like spin or marketing. So let me show you how Wicked introduces that question about who's good and who's wicked. Whole movie opens with this celebration. So the streets of Oz are packed with these munchkins dancing and singing and jubilation, and they're shouting, good news, good news. The Wicked Witch is dead. Justice has been served. Evil has been defeated. Now, like me, if you grew up watching The Wizard of Oz, you know the story. There's Dorothy, there's Toto, the Yellow Brick Road, Iron Man. You know, we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz, all of that. Flying monkeys, ruby slippers, that terrifying green witch who melts when water hits her. And for generations, we knew who the villain was. Well, it's the Wicked Witch of the West. End of story, full stop. Except what if the story we've been told is wrong? You see, Wicked's the prequel to The Wizard of Oz. It's asking, well, what if we got the story backwards? What if the Wicked One's actually the hero and the great and powerful wizard's actually the villain? So that's the genius of Wicked. It flips the script. And we love stories like this, don't we? You think about other movies like Maleficent, Cruella, Joker, stories that say you thought you knew who the bad guy was? Well, think again. It's the air we breathe now in 2026, isn't it? Again, every narrative gets deconstructed, every authority gets questioned, good and evil aren't like clear, they're complicated. And what happens in movies is happening in politics, it's happening where we live and work, and the common fact is this: we misjudge people. The Pharisees prove it, like Linda proves it. We prove it. But here's where we need to go deeper. See, if the Wizard of Oz got the story wrong, and if Wicked's able to flip it, well, what's to stop someone else flipping it again? I mean, how do we know Wicked got the story right? In fact, Gregory Maguire, who wrote the novel Wicked, from which the movie and musical is based, he spent years wrestling with this question about the nature of evil. And here's one of his most piercing observations. He says, people who claim that they're evil are usually no worse than the rest of us. So people who claim that they're good, or anyway better than the rest of us, that's who you have to be wary of. See, the wizard claims to be kind, claims to be good. He looked the part, he's impressive, he's authoritative, he's maintaining order. In reality, he's just using his power to silence dissent, control through fear. I think Maguire, the author's insight's right. The people who are most dangerous are often the ones who are certain that they're right and righteous. So here's the question that Maguire can't answer. If everyone who claims to be good might actually be bad, and everyone who seems bad might actually be good, well, who gets to define good and evil at all? And if every story can be flipped, how do we know what's actually true anymore? And here's where it gets even more complicated. The Wizard shows us exactly how this works in practice. Because if you watch the movie, let's be honest about what the Wizard's doing. He's not really running a government, he's really running a big PR campaign. It's all spectacle, it's all spin, it's all image management, smoke and mirrors, control the narrative, you control the people. The irony is that the movie Wicked, I guess you could almost say, does the same thing in reverse. It's like counter PR, it's rebranding the villain as the hero is the villain. But again, here's the problem. If truth just becomes now who has the best PR machine, we're all lost. Because the truth just becomes whoever controls the microphone, or whoever has the biggest platform, whoever can tell the most compelling story. Well, that's truth. We're right back to where we started. Well, who gets to decide what's real? Because in the movie, the wizard explains how easily people are manipulated into believing whatever their leaders tell them. Here she says, the truth is not a thing of fact or reason. The truth is just what everyone agrees on. See, into this, we need Jesus to enter the dialogue, not just as another voice in the conversation, but as truth itself, truth himself. See, he doesn't say, I'm going to show you the truth. He doesn't even say, I have the truth. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Not a philosophy, not a perspective, not your truth versus my truth or whatever everyone agrees on. Rather, he says, truth is found in me. It's a person, someone you can know, someone you can trust. It's why at Grace City, we like to say one of our values, we sit at the feet of Jesus. And not because we're anti-intellectual or scared of hard questions, quite the opposite. But because truth isn't some concept that we need to figure out, it's a person we encounter. So when you sit at somebody's feet, you're choosing to listen, you're choosing to learn, you're choosing to let them shape the world the way you need to see it. When you sit at Jesus' feet, something changes within you. You stop arguing about who's right and you start listening to who's real. You stop constructing your own truth, you start receiving his. You stop defending your version of the story, you start letting him rewrite the story. Because unlike the wizard who needed smoke and mirrors, Jesus has nothing to hide. Remember us, how we see surfaces, not souls, movement one Jesus. He sees all the way through. And he absolutely flips the script on who's good and who's wicked. And he doesn't do it randomly. He's not playing like some postmodern games. He's got this X-ray vision into the human heart. And so when you read the first 4 books of the New Testament, what we call the Gospels, we see this all the time. The religious leaders would see a rich young ruler, they'd see him blessed by God, a model Jew. Jesus looks at the same person and says, you lack something, you're trapped by your wealth. In another story, the religious leaders see a prostitute, unclean, wicked, keep away from her. Jesus says, so your faith has saved you, go in peace. The religious leaders see a tax collector, traitor, collaborator, evil. Jesus looks at the same person and says, today salvation has come to your home. And the religious leaders see themselves, so we're the righteous ones, they say. Jesus looks at them as whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside, but full of death and decay within. So he doesn't just like flip good and evil randomly. He sees what we hide. He sees what's beneath the surface, the real condition of our soul. And here's the part that should unsettle us. He sees wickedness in every one of us. See, the movie Wicked wants to split the world into these two groups, the misunderstood heroes, the truly wicked villains. Jesus says, no, it doesn't work that way. I love the way Christian author Timothy Keller summarizes it. He says, the line between good and evil doesn't run between groups of people. It runs down the middle of every human heart. There is no green-skinned people versus like normal people. That there is no, good versus bad. There's just people. People who are loved by God, broken by sin, and all in desperate need of rescue. The Pharisees, like the wizard, thought they were the good ones. They're wrong. Everyone thought Elphaba was the wicked one. They were wrong too. And here's what Jesus reveals. We're all wicked. And we're all loved. And so the movie asks the right question, well, what if we got the story wrong? Jesus says, well, you do, but it's not the way you think. The problem isn't just that we misjudge each other. The problem is actually we can't even see ourselves clearly enough. You see, we need truth, not our truth, not just better PR. We actually need somebody from the outside of our story to come and rewrite it from the inside out. Wicked flips the story. Jesus, he's able to rewrite it. And understanding the difference between flipping and rewriting is crucial. Brings us to our third movement, final movement, number 3. We need redemption, not just liberation. You see, Wicked offers just one solution to the human condition, liberation. You need to break free, defy the system, fly solo. So the pivotal point of the movie, Elphaba stands on the top of the tower. Everything's like coming, crashing down around her. The wizard, the one person she thought she could trust, has betrayed her, trying to use her power for his own corrupt purposes. Glinda, her new best friend, standing there pleading with her, just come down, would you conform, just play it safe, don't make waves. The guards are coming from beneath. They're going to arrest her, silence her, put her away for life. She's got a choice to make. Do I give in? Do I just like conform? Or do I break free? And in this very moment, she chooses what she thinks is freedom. She lifts her arms, she rises off the ground, and she begins to fly, literally defying gravity. At least to the famous moment in the entire musical with this classic song, Defying Gravity. It's her declaration of independence. Listen to the words. I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. I'm through accepting limits because someone says they're so. Something's changed within me. Something is not the same. I'm through with playing by the rules. It's time to try defying gravity, and you can't pull me down. And the music roars, and her voice, soars to that iconic high note. She's breaking free from like every lie, every limitation, every person who's tried to define her, to hold her back, control her. It's powerful, it's defiant, it's aspiring. It's the cry of every human heart, isn't it? We all want to be free. Free from shame, free from control, free from people placing these labels on us. Something beautiful in this song, because God created us for freedom. The whole image of Elphaba rising above, the lies, the pain is powerful, it's moving. And if it was just actually about personal empowerment, we could end there, call it a day. But here's what the song doesn't tell you. And here's what the movie can't actually solve. First, it doesn't really show us that she flies alone, but her freedom isolates her. Sure, she rises above Oz, but she loses her best friend, she loses her sister, she loses every relationship that mattered. Her freedom becomes this isolation, her defiance really becomes exile. Sure, she's broken free from the wizard's control, but she's just like trapped by her own pain, her own past, her own limits. That's not freedom, friends, that's exile. A true freedom isn't about, no one can touch me. True freedom is I'm free to be loved and to love without fear. It's the second problem. Self-acceptance can't heal deep wounds. And that song comes at this tender moment. She's falling from the tower. She has these like flashbacks to moments in her life when she's been like bullying and, slandered, and the whole, color of her skin. And she decides, no more hiding. I'm not apologizing anymore. I'm going to defy everyone who's made me feel small. And it's a beautiful, tender scene. But you see, self-acceptance can't erase the scars that rejection's left behind. Sure, she can embrace being green, she can celebrate her power, but she can't fly above her pain. The wounds are still there. The rejection still stings, because loving yourself is not the same thing as healing yourself. Because even when we learn to accept ourselves, we still can't redeem ourselves. Elphaba embraces who she is, but she can't heal who she's been. Our self-acceptance can stop you hating your reflection in the mirror, but it can't make the wound stop bleeding. It can answer the questions that haunt you. Or can it? Can't really answer questions like, am I enough? Do I belong? Am I wanted? She can fly high, but she can't leave those kind of questions behind. They fly with her. Of course, there's a third problem. Really, all she's doing is trading one master for another. She's no longer controlled by the wizard's expectations. Now she's controlled by her rage against the wizard. That's not freedom. Really, that's just a new cage she's formed around her. She's now defined by what she's against. She's trapped in her wounds. During my sabbatical, I spent a lot of time in India, in Vietnam and Cambodia, a lot of temples and a lot of religions going on with people. And I just saw a lot of self-purification and self-liberation and this like self-achievement. Saw it in the temples and these beautiful shrines, people burning incense, making offerings, sacrifices, trying to find enlightenment through meditation. Different practices, different religions, but really it's the same core message. You must do the work. You must work off your karma. You must ascend through your own achievement, liberate yourself through your own strength. Of course, it's not just Eastern religions that do this. It's like secular self-help, it's therapy culture, it's Elphaba's song. Fly higher, work harder, liberate yourself. The problem is we can't. Not ultimately. We actually have more to achieve than we could ever imagine. Perfect righteousness, complete freedom, true complete healing. We can't do that. We can't earn it. We can't fly high enough. We can't purify ourselves. It's why we need the gospel from outside to come and do what Jesus has done for us. Where we don't just defy gravity, but Jesus descended into death. Elphaba flies upward to prove she's free. Jesus flies downward to make us free. Big difference. In fact, remember how the religious leaders looked at Jesus and saw wickedness? They're absolutely convinced they knew the truth about Jesus. Blasphemer, demon-possessed, he's a threat. And Jesus, even though he knows they're completely wrong, he let them kill him anyway. He didn't defy their judgment, he absorbed it. This label wicked, he actually takes on himself, blasphemer, criminal, curse, instead of flying away from all of that, instead of defending himself, instead of calling down angels to prove his innocence, he becomes what they call him. Not because he was those things, but because we are. Picture it again. The religious leaders in their fine attire pointing to Jesus on the cross. See, we told you he was wicked. And Jesus, gasping in his final breath, looks at them and says, Father, would you forgive them? Here's the breathtaking reversal of the heart of the Christian gospel, that Jesus is condemned as wicked so that we can be declared righteous. He's shut out so that we can be brought in. He's forsaken so that we never have to be forsaken. It's not just like a perspective flip. This is like a radical rewrite. This is love rewriting reality. Elphaba defies gravity, but Jesus defies death. Elphaba rises to escape. Jesus descends to enable our rescue. Elphaba flies away from her story. Jesus falls right into ours. And then 3 days later, he walks out of that tomb of life, proving not just that he's powerful, but that he's able to bring real freedom that's deeper than defiance. Not, I just accept myself as I am, but I'm now able to be made new. I'm able to fly above my pain, but my pain's actually able to be transformed into a purpose. Not I'm free from their control, but I'm free to love and to be loved without fear. So that's the freedom that Jesus offers. The freedom to come home in relationship with Jesus. So here's what I want you to hear today. Especially if you're exploring faith, or if this is all new to you. Maybe you've been flying solo, trying to rewrite your own story through willpower. Maybe you've embraced who you are, but the wounds are still bleeding. Maybe you've defied everyone who's ever hurt you, but you're still just carrying that heavy weight of it all. It's exhausting from trying to defy gravity yourself. But here's what Jesus says to you today. You don't have to keep flying. You can fall into grace. Not because you're weak, but because you were never meant to carry this alone. Jesus was misjudged so you can be truly known. Jesus was called wicked so that you could be called beloved. Jesus defied death so you wouldn't have to carry your shame forever. And while wicked flips the story, Jesus is able to rewrite it. And he can rewrite yours today. Not by helping you fly higher, but by meeting you in the fall. By taking your pain, your shame, your very worst moments, and rewriting them into a story of grace. And friends, that's the invitation he gives to us every single moment of every single day. Let's pray together. Jesus, you were misjudged so we could be truly known. You were condemned so we could be set free. You descended into death so we could rise again into life. Would you rewrite our stories with your grace? Would you renew our hearts by your Spirit? And through us, continue to renew people and places until your beauty fills the world again. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.